Alright, hello gang, Sharpshot21 here. It has been a little while since I've given an update, and I apologize for that. It has been a bit of a rough fall and winter now. I mean, it's the first week of February 2025. So, apologize for the lack of updates. As you can see, we are not in the Jeep. The Jeep is currently sitting up on jack stands in the driveway. I'm trying to get rid of it. If someone wants a Jeep with 2 transmissions, a good engine, and like 160,000 miles on it, shoot me an email. It's also up on Facebook. If you're in the, greater Philly area. So I did record the transmission rebuild stuff on the Jeep. I did something wrong. It wouldn't get into gear. I don't know what I screwed up or where, but I did, so got to figure out what happened there. Or, not, because I don't have time or facilities to do that where I can be comfortable doing such. So my loss is your gain, potentially. If I don't have any nibbles on it shortly, then I may ship it back to Vermont and someone can deal with it up there. That being said, I did pick up, obviously, a new vehicle. This is a very well-preserved 1994 Ford Ranger. Now, I plan to hang on to this one for quite some time. I've already put a little bit of work into it that I did not have time to record. I've put a not insignificant number of hours in redoing leaf spring bushings, and so as a result, I want to know what this van's doing. Hold on. As a result, the rear end is basically, at least in terms of leaf springs, good to go. The needs shocks and struts and things of that nature, but a couple bushings here and there for the sway bar or whatnot. I did give it a very light oil undercoat just because I am still in Pennsylvania and they do salt, though we haven't had to salt all that much, which is nice. Anyways, I'm planning on keeping this for a while. I want to maintain it as best I can, and then once I'm in a better spot, my plan is to do as much of a full restoration on this as I can. See, Sarah in Tunes series for her Ranger. I kind of want to do the same thing with this one. I want to do a full frame restoration, rebuild the axles front and rear, rebuild the driveline, and then I want to resto mod it. So this comes with an A4LD automatic transmission that's a 4-speed, minimal electronic controls, which is great. Like, I love that. It's old school. There's, you got a mechanical governor, there's a 3/4 shift solenoid, and torque converter lockup solenoid. Like, that's phenomenal. And because Ford used the same bell housings for all the 4 liters, that's a super handy thing for what I want to do. Because I want to find a TDI Volkswagen, either a Jetta or a Passat. Passat would be preferred. And take the engine from that, or if I can just get the engine and ECM, that would be the ideal solution. And put the engine from that in this. Now those are a PD engine, the ones I want, so it's not a common rail fuel injection. It's a P pump, basically. They're very reliable. And with, the stock numbers on those ones are the 4-cylinder 2 liters are exactly the same, basically, as the stock numbers on the 4-liter 6-cylinder that I'm running right now. So, I think it's like, if not better. You can get the Passat ones have better torque and horsepower numbers, which is what I would love to have. And you're tripling your fuel economy, which anyone who drives one of these will tell you it's not great. So that's my plan to the long run for this thing, is to ground up Bresto and Bresto Mod. Now, why did I mention the A4LD? Because the A4LD was the mostly mechanical version that then turned into the 4R44E, and then they turned it into the 5R55E, which is a 5-speed electronically controlled transmission, fully electronically controlled. So, they all use the same bell housing. As a result, I can take either the A4LD or a 5R55E, or there's a guy, I think he's on the Ranger forum on Length of Post, who did a A4LD 5R55E Frankentranny and showed you how to do it. So it's going to be one of those 3 options. Part of me wants to do the Frankentranny, but I need to figure out if I can run the vacuum modulator that the A4LD uses on the intake of the Passat, or the VW TDI motor. Because those are turbos, so you gotta run it with 3 turbo. But I don't know if the turbo is going to put too much vacuum on that transmission, and if that's correctable with an adjustable vacuum modulator. If it is, I'm quite inclined to run a Frankentranny. If it's not, then I would love to run a 5R55E with a aftermarket transmission controller tied into the VW engine controller. So that I can get the 5-speed. And I can either run that 5-speed in 4-speed mode or 5-speed mode. Because the way they got the 5-speed in those was they put first gear, they split shifted
first to second. What I mean by that is they took first gear, and then to shift to second, you didn't shift out of first gear. You left it in first, and you engaged overdrive. And then to go into third gear, you disengaged overdrive and you shifted into what mechanically is second gear. So you split shift. And you used to be able to do this on older, twin stick transmissions. One of my neighbors back in Vermont had one. It was a 4-speed manual with a manual overdrive. It wasn't a 5-speed manual. It was a 4-speed with a secondary overdrive box, like a transfer case. So if you were clever, you could go first, split shift into overdrive, split shift out of overdrive, go to second on the transmission, shift into overdrive again, so split shift it. Split shift out into third and disengage overdrive. Then split shift third, put the overdrive back in. Shift into fourth and disengage overdrive. And then split shift fourth. So you really got an 8-speed out of it, which is kind of neat. Now, I did some thinking, and in theory you could split shift not just first gear, but mechanical second as well. So you could do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 speed. Because fifth gear would then be direct, and sixth gear would be overdrive, which would be kind of neat to do. I don't think it would be terribly practical, and it certainly wouldn't give you anything. Except, maybe some better fuel economy at those in-between speeds. So, to have a standard mode and a economy mode that's selectable with that aftermarket transmission controller would be nice. Now, the other reason why I would stick with either of those Ford transmissions is because they both run the same tail housing in the 4x4 configuration. They run a short tail housing. And it's the same bolt pattern. Why is that important? Because this truck is a 4x4. And so I would love to keep the stock transfer case. And that transfer case is an electronically shifted transfer case. There's 2 buttons up here on the dash. One's 4x4 and one's low range. I would love to keep both of those buttons and to keep that as an option for this for this truck. I want to keep the interior, as stock as possible, basically. I'll do some other mods, like this center console. I want to build one out that goes all the way up to the dash, ties in, we get rid of the ashtray and the cigarette lighter, build in an inverter and a couple, USB power outlets and that sort of stuff, wireless charger docks for 2 phones, etc. Keep the cup holders, change rack, things like that I'll do. But, on the dash side of things, I want to keep it fairly stock. I would love to I'd love to keep all the mechanical gauges. I don't think I can do that with the 5R55, but maybe. The red line on a Passat and on this V6 are almost the same place. So if I could make the tack signal from the Passat work, that would also be phenomenal. Now, if that doesn't work, I think it's Dakota Digital makes for this, vintage truck, a drop-in digital dash. Well, hybrid dash. It's still all the mechanical arms and everything, but I believe it's CAN bus controlled. And they make two versions. They make a version that has that's not the right one. That's not open today. They make one that has the gear selector for if you're running an automatic, and they make one that has no gear selector for if you're running a manual. Now, I would love to keep an automatic, even though I do like a manual car. But I don't want to have to tear open the floor and figure out how to do a clutch conversion on this thing. It wouldn't be hard, but it's just one more thing I don't want to have to do. Plus, it would mess up my plans for center console. The one other thing that I might do as a resto mod, in terms of the interior, is change from crank windows to power windows, but with a crank switch. So the crank stays there, but when you pull it towards you, the window goes up, you push it away from the window goes down, you're not actually cranking it. And there are people that make kits for that. One of the other things that I will do, maybe even sooner rather than later, in terms of modifications to this truck, is it's running the old 9-inch drums on the rear. I don't necessarily have an issue with drum brakes, but I would rather put a disc brake conversion on with like internal drums for the e-brake. That's what the Jeep has. I like those. They're very reliable. I like the e-brake on this thing. I'd like to have an e-brake that works. So that would be probably something I would do sooner rather than later. Potentially even before resto modding this thing. Now, some of the things that I like about this truck, and why I want to keep it, is it's got a Dana 35 front axle, which is really nice. It is the TTB, which is the twin traction beam front end, which is a little bit less nice because getting parts for those is problematic. I think it uses a standard Dana 35 carrier, but I can't find anyone that does drive shafts for it, or axle shafts for it, which I would love to get new axle shafts. These ones are 31 years old and they're getting a little crusty. If I have to recondition them, that's fine, I can do that. But I would basically like to do this truck new from the ground up. It has a Ford 8.8-inch in the rear, which is a very well-built axle. This one also has the limited slip in it, which was kind of a rare option for these trucks. So that's nice. The one other thing that I might do, I don't think I will, is I might put like a 1-inch lift on this and up the tire size just slightly so I can get different wheels and rims that are a little more of a common size these days, because it's tricky to find good tires for this truck. And it's tricky to find affordable tires for this truck. So, we'll see what happens. A couple things to go in with the mods. If I'm putting a new driveline in this, I'll probably put four-wheel ABS in, because in theory this truck has rear-wheel ABS. It was one of the first years where Ford did it, and it didn't work so great, and my system is shot right now. I don't need ABS, but it'd be nice to have. The other thing, this truck is supposed to have cruise control, and right now it does not. And I think it doesn't because the ABS is malfunctioning, and those two systems, I believe, are tied together. So that's super helpful, but not anything overly complicated to do. Especially because the VW PCM, your ECU, whatever you want to call it, engine control unit, powertrain control module, has cruise control built in, because it's a fly-by-wire throttle and a fly-by-wire fuel delivery system, because it's a GDI. So that would be relatively simple to do. The other thing with the aftermarket transmission controller is one that I'm thinking I can use has the ability to do flappy pedal shifters. So I may see about modding in a different steering column, or hodgepodging a steering column in that has flappy paddles and a different shift arm, so that I can put in, or a shift arm with a kind of like a 2012 or something, or even newer, that has Tetronic mode, basically, so you can shift it up and down via buttons on the stalk. Because being able to also delete overdrive or disable overdrive would be quite helpful to have. That as a button on the stalk would be nice. I love the Ford steering columns. Either their passenger car ones or their truck ones, where it's basically one stalk that runs everything, and there's a switch assembly or a lever on the dash for the lights. That's super nice. And then I may resto mod in some other feature comforts, heated seats. I mentioned power windows already. I modded the radio antenna so it's not a whip on the front, but it's a shark fin on the roof. I may do some cosmetic stuff before, like the headlights are glowworms and jam jars. So I'll see if I can do a HID conversion or something of that nature. The tail lights are a whole lot better, so with an LED conversion there. When I've got the frame all stripped down, we'll replace the hitch with a 2-inch hitch instead of a 1-inch hitch, and we'll put a proper, at least 4-pin on there. I don't think I'd ever tow anything with this that would require a brake controller and a 7-pin. but I could at least put a controller that has, or a wiring harness that has both of those in there, and just run the wiring up into the dash for a great controller if I wanted to put them in at some point. Definitely it's going to get remote lock, essentially. Remote start. That's a must for me, and pretty much anything I own these days is at least remote lock. Remote start would be nice, but you know, not required. Especially if I end up moving further south again, trying to get out of the cold and salt and the rust. So that's the plan for this thing. Sorry if it was kind of rambling and a bit long. I do appreciate you tuning in for it. This will probably drop on Tuesday, and then I'll start doing my botched transmission rebuild for the Jeep and V0102 printer build stuff on Thursdays again. We'll see about Tuesday videos, just because I am not driving a whole lot these days. I'm laid off at the moment. We'll see if I can record something on the way in for one day of work that I've got. Any other solo outings like today. So, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Sorry to, be so sporadic with it, but the movie doesn't help. The new job didn't help. And I just didn't have time. Hopefully we can rectify that and get things a little closer to back on schedule. Let me know if you got questions, comments, suggestions down below. And we'll catch you next time. Sharps out.
Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps me out, and it lets you know when I put something new up. New videos will be going up on Tuesdays or Thursdays at 8 a.m. Eastern. And if I do decide to do live streams, I will try to give 24 hours notice. So hit the subscribe button on the channel, and you'll be notified when I post that stuff too. Hope to see you next time. Sharps out.